Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a man convicted of manslaughter finally learned his sentencing for a deadly shooting in 2020. And one group continues to advocate for people in poverty with hope for a national change.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. We are just past 6:30 on Tuesday, June 4th. Now let's go ahead and send it over to meteorologist Mace Michaels for a look at your forecast this morning.
Hi there, Olivia. We're looking at a nice morning with a partly to mostly sunny sky, a little fog in spots, temperatures generally in the 60s. Our I-64 Moorhead camera showing you a 66 temp. And just a few clouds in the background, maybe a little fog in a few patches way off in the distance. Seeing that here on our hazard camera, a little hazy, a little foggy, but visibility not too reduced, at least definitely not at ground level. Couple of pockets, though, of locally dense fog there, Middlesboro and Jacksboro with near zero visibility. Those of you in Ashland, you're seeing half-mile visibility. It is down with your temperature at 64. Lots of 60s in the area this morning. Jonesville up to Grundy, you're in the upper 50s. Sky is partly cloudy away from the foggy areas. Had a couple of showers pop up in the region yesterday. Can't rule out a stray shower in the area today. Our out-the-door forecast, we get you through the 60s and 70s this morning, pop you up into the mid-80s for later on today. Olivia, we'll see some isolated storms.
All right, Mace, thank you. A Clay County man was sentenced for his role in a deadly 2020 shooting. WYMT's RJ Johnson was in the courtroom and shares how the victim's family continues to remember him.
On Labor Day weekend in 2020, Johnny Lynn Curry was shot near the intersection of US 421 and Kentucky 149.
I was sitting on my bedroom when I heard on my scanner that the subject had been shot in the garage area. I started praying for this person immediately.
However, Jimmy Curry received a call that would change his life. He learned his son was the one that was shot and later died.
My only child had been taken away from things.
Terry Wagers was charged with murder, and on Monday he was sentenced to 12 years in prison for manslaughter.
In my opinion, justice has not been served. Terry Wagers could have driven off, but he chose to put 2 bullets in my son's chest.
Jimmy says it is hard to forgive Wagers for what he took away from him and his family.
My spiritual side says forgive, while my human side says keep on hating. Hopefully someday I can forgive, but right now I just can't.
However, he said Johnny Lynn loved being a papaw.
I'll never know the feeling of Johnny Lynn poking back in my driveway and getting to watch him be papaw to his grandchildren. We do tell her about him and how happy he was to be a papaw. You know how hurtful it is when a nearly 4-year-old looks up at his picture and says papaw.
Saying it still hurts more than 3 years later. In Clay County, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Wagers pleaded guilty back in May to manslaughter, amended from the original murder charge. A Knox County missing woman was found dead on Monday morning. Troopers with Kentucky State Police say they found 42-year-old Jennifer Hensley's car along the Hal Rogers Parkway. Her body was found a short distance from the vehicle. Officers say no foul play is suspected, but they still are investigating her death. A Clay County inmate is still on the run after escaping on Thursday. Officers say Skylar Hubbard escaped from near the Beach Creek Apartments. He was last seen near Cole Hollow. At the time of his escape, officers say he was wearing orange work release clothes. Anyone with information is asked to call the sheriff's office. In Laurel County, police arrested 49-year-old Patrick David Sizemore after they say they got a call that he was lying unresponsive in a road. Officers arrested the East Bernstadt man on Saturday. Deputies with the Laurel County Sheriff's Department say they found Sizemore unresponsive with a, quote, empty beer can in between his legs, end quote. Officers say the incident happened near R. Heron Road. Sizemore was charged with public intoxication. The Blackie Bridge in Letcher County is closed. Officials say a recent inspection revealed structural issues that require immediate attention. Barricades have been set up at each end of the bridge. Drivers can detour using Kentucky 160 to Kentucky 15 or Kentucky 2036 to Kentucky 7 towards Perry County. During the pandemic, overdose deaths became far too prevalent in the United States. However, a recent report found overdose deaths are declining in the U.S., but even more so here in the Commonwealth. With more help readily available and Narcan accessible, it is all proving to make a difference. Robert Fannin, a patient at Beacons of Hope, says his time in recovery has given him new opportunities for a better tomorrow.
I feel like I've found God here. I feel like it's this place, it's more family oriented. It's smaller than other places, so you get to know everybody, every staff member, every client that comes through the door, and it feels like everybody's rooting for you here. I never really felt that anywhere else before.
To learn more about resources that Beacons of Hope has to offer, you can look for this story on our website, WYMT.com, and on the WYMT News app. A Claiborne County, Tennessee church is destroyed after a fire Saturday night, leaving many people shocked and heartbroken. Evan Lasik was in Tazewell to see how people are joining together after the devastating loss of their church.
Complete loss, just heartbroken.
A fire destroying a sacred place for many people in Tazewell. The Springdale Baptist Church now a loss.
From what I'm gathering, probably 60–70% consumes that time fully involved, and just moving faster and faster as the seconds went by. Even once we were dispatched, there was calls just as soon as we were dispatched. There was already fire through the roof of the structure.
The newly renovated Fellowship Hall survived the fire, but the church itself destroyed. Crews worked fast to stop the flames from spreading to the entire building. Churchgoers, however, remaining positive about the future of their church.
Upon arrival, we were just completely devastated with what we saw. Really no words to describe what we felt, but we're very optimistic as a church that we know who we have our faith in and who we count on, and we know what's going to come in the future. We'll rebuild it bigger and better.
Despite the devastation, people still gathering together for Sunday service.
On the way to church, I was just still brokenhearted, but then after we got in the old church and the spirit started going, we just got very encouraged.
Fire Chief Matthew Seals says he used to go to church here. He says seeing what happened to the church has not been easy.
We got some photos and stuff, and like I said, my parents just lived right behind the church here and everything, and it was just completely devastating. Just made me sick to my stomach.
With all that has happened, people in Tazewell say that being together is the best thing they can do right now.
I feel like after everything happened, it's just everybody was so down last night compared to this morning. This morning it was like everybody was happy. We were rejoicing. We were excited to see what God had in store.
In Tazewell, Evan Lasik, WVLT News.
Nobody was hurt in the fire, and Pastor Brandon Christian says services will continue at Big Springs Primitive Baptist Church every Sunday at 10 a.m. Members of the Kentucky Poor People's Campaign will soon head to Washington, D.C. to have their voices heard. Yesterday, about a dozen members of the campaign hosted a rally on the front steps of the state capitol. There they announced they will travel to the nation's capital on June 29th for the National Poor People's Campaign Moral Revival March on Washington, D.C. Tens of thousands are expected to show up to demand federal legislators to end poverty and encourage Americans to vote.
But we want to get policies passed that help your everyday people. So people are interested in health care, and they're interested in affordable rent, affordable housing. People need food that they can afford.
The Poor People's Campaign is nonpartisan. According to the organization, poverty is the fourth leading cause of death in the U.S.
Patchy areas of fog this morning on our Whitesburg camera. You can look in the background. It does look a little hazy. The tree line maybe scoured a little bit in some foggy low clouds, but not really a thick, dense fog as you can see here on the camera shot. 63 degrees, our latest temperature. Our hazard camera showing you the same type of thing. Can't see off too much in the distance, but right down here at ground level, it is not a problem. Temps in the 60s as well. Visibility down, though, in Middlesboro and Jacksboro near zero, and around the Ashland area, we're seeing quarter-mile visibility. Temperatures are in the 60s this morning, some 50s from Jonesville through Wise, Clintwood, and Grundy. Here's how the forecast shapes up for today. We'll look for 60-degree weather this morning, on up into the 80s for this afternoon, and some showers and thunderstorms developing. Olivia?
Thanks, Mace, and thank you for joining us. The time is now 6:41. Still to come on Mountain News this morning. Opening statements in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial start today with a rare statement from the president before it begins.